One of the more common administrative tasks you will need to perform on virtual machines is extending the size of one of your virtual disks. So let's go through that. We're going to go to our Windows 10 virtual machine and we're going to go to Edit Settings. I'm going to select hard disk 1 there, which you can see as defaulted to 48 gig. I'm going to increase that to 60 gigabytes. I'm going to say OK. I'll watch that. And we see that's completed already. So that's increased the size of that virtual disk. You'll note that in doing so, I have not had to shut down or restart the virtual machine. However, that has only extended the virtual disk. We now need to go into the operating system and extend the partition. So there's a few ways of doing this, and of course it depends upon which operating system you are using. So in Windows you can either use the command line disk part tool or you can go into disk management as I am here. So we can see there is 12 gigabytes unallocated. If that wasn't visible, we could just right click on here and say rescan disks. Sometimes Windows just needs to be told to rescan so that it shows up. And we can attempt to expand our partition. However, in this case, we've got this recovery partition here. So this is where we have a slight issue. The C drive on this virtual machine has this recovery partition. We can't extend this C drive. If that happens, then you need to think about getting a third-party tool such as gparted or Partition Magic to expand the partition. But you can see that you need to expand the partition within the operating system once you've grown that disk. Another common feature you are probably going to try to use at some point is snapshots. Now I'm going to say to you now, be very careful with snapshots. They are not the magic trick that people tend to think they are. Let me show you how a snapshot works. So I'm just going to open the tasks pane here. I'm going to say snapshot, take snapshot before Windows update. Now we have the option to snapshot the virtual machine's memory. I'm going to leave that ticked for now. We also have this option to quiesce the guest file system. Not supported on all operating systems, but if it is, then that will send a command to VSS running inside the Windows guest or similar in other operating systems to make sure that all of the applications finish writing before we take this snapshot. So we can make sure that the snapshot is consistent. Say create, and we'll see how quickly that gets created. We can see that's what is currently running on the guest as we are running that snapshot, so that is where it is. Now that the snapshot has run, we can go to Snapshot, Manage Snapshots, and we can see our snapshot there. So we can now perform operations inside the virtual machine without worrying that we're going to lose some work if we make a mistake. So I'm going to open something here. I'm going to open a file, another file there. Okay. And oops, I just deleted the and I am going to shut down the VM. So we'll see in a moment. So that virtual machine should go off. There we go, it's now off. Now, of course, I've just added a couple of files in there, but if we'd just done a Windows update and the Windows update had been fine, we would come in here and delete the snapshot and we'll just carry on as we are. But imagine that the Windows update went horribly wrong. We can select that snapshot and say revert. Now, bear in mind that everything we've changed since we took that snapshot will be lost. Yeah, we can't move back and forwards through time with this. We can only go back to that snapshot. So I'm going to say revert, and very quickly it will revert back to that snapshot. Now, that snapshot, we ticked the box to say snapshot the memory. So it's going to restore the exact state of the virtual machine as it was at that time. So in a moment, not only will the virtual machine actually be running as it was at the time we took the snapshot, but it won't have even rebooted. We'll still be on the desktop, we'll still have the computer management control panel applet open. It will be as if nothing had happened whatsoever, and that's because it snapshotted the memory and allowed us to return to the exact state it was in at the point we took the snapshot. And there we go, the virtual machine exactly as we left it, same apps running. And we'll go and take a look at the documents folder and we will see that those files I created have disappeared. There we go. So if that Windows update had just caused a major issue, we would be doing much better now than if we hadn't taken that snapshot. But here is where snapshots become very, very dangerous. People often think that the snapshot, we take a copy of the virtual machine as it is now, but we don't. We create the snapshot as an empty file, and everything that we change gets added to the snapshot. And what we see in the virtual machine is a combination of the original virtual machine file and the shim, if you will, that's placed in front of it by the snapshot that's capturing all of our changes. This means two things. One, there's a performance hit, because every time you read from the virtual machine's disks, you need to read from the original VMDK, but you also need to read from the snapshot to see if that particular block was changed in the snapshot. The other thing is, everything you write to the virtual machine doesn't modify the original disk, it gets added to the snapshot. So that can actually mean that you start using a lot more disk space. I've seen scenarios before where people have taken a snapshot just after they've built the VM. thinking this will be really handy. If I have a problem with this in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, I can go back to my snapshot and start afresh. But the problem is, all of the work they're doing in that time is getting written into the snapshot. And eventually the snapshot is the same size as the original virtual disk, and they've run out of disk space. And to delete that snapshot and reintegrate the snapshot back into the main drive, you need an amount of scratch space. So if you've actually run the disk out of space, well, you're a bit stuck because you can't then add the snapshot back into the original disk and clear up your space. So at that point, you're scrabbling around trying to find new hard drives or whatever to put into your servers so that you can put that snapshot back in there and get your virtual machine running again. So we're going to take a snapshot again. This time I'm not going to snapshot the memory just for speed. There we go, that's created the snapshot straight away. So that reinforces the fact that we're not copying the virtual machine. That snapshot created incredibly quickly. We can't possibly have copied it that fast. Of course we haven't. Let's go and take a look at the Datastore where it's stored and look at the files. Our Windows 10 virtual machine here. We can see these 001 and 002 files for our vNDK. Those are the snapshot files, and they will just continue to grow and grow and grow until such a time as we have no disk space left. So what we need to do is go back to the virtual machine and delete all of the snapshots. So we can see there's my original snapshot, and there's the other one I took after it. So go back to here. I'm going to delete the snapshots. Now, of course, as well, if this virtual machine had been running for months on a snapshot, and that snapshot is enormous, when I say delete all in here, it's going to take a long time to delete because it's got a lot of data that's in the snapshot that's got to be written back to the main VMDK. So snapshots are a really handy feature, and they are used very heavily by virtualization backup solutions such as Veeam or vSphere data protection, which we'll come to later. But they are not intended to be used long term. If you're about to make a change which you think could have unexpected ramifications and you want a neat opportunity to very quickly return back to where you started, great, go ahead and use them. But don't leave them running for more than a couple of days at the absolute most.